So Ben Carson is still the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Now, he doesn't make the news very often because mostly he doesn't do anything. He hasn't really done a whole lot, at least that has captured the public eye, right? So he's been very low key, but as people haven't been paying attention to him, but paying attention more to people like Betsy DeVos, as well as, of course, the constant insanity surrounding Trump, Ben Carson has actually gotten away with basically destroying the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, the result of that, of course, is disastrous for the people who are living in HUD housing. Now, there's a new report out and a new investigation that was done by Stephanie Gosk, right, for NBC. Now, she found out through this investigation, and she just looked at an area, for example, in Hartford, Connecticut, right, where many residents, thanks to lax oversight from HUD and not actually fixing problems, that these residents were dealing with mold, rodent, and vermin infestations, ceiling collapses, and more, all while taxpayers were still paying the building owner nearly $1.5 million over the past couple of years. So basically, Carson's department has been giving these, what is essentially slumlords, money, while the places that people are living in are falling apart around them, and people are living in substandard conditions. Now, the report also found that more than 1,000 public housing properties across the country have received failing grades, forcing 40,000 families who depend on Carson's leadership at HUD to live basically in squalor. And so this is the impact of Carson's so-called leadership of the agency. It's not the people on the ground that are at fault here. It's, look, the fish rots from the head down, as that old saying is. Now, I want to give you one clip from that investigation. Again, I urge you to check out the whole thing, where HUD inspectors, recorded by a tenant, can be heard basically laying the blame at Carson's feet. Let's take a look.
When residents at this Hartford building complained about holes in the ceilings, HUD officials agreed to meet, then vented their own frustrations. The tenants recorded it.
The system is broken. You just don't have the staff for it.
There's 432 properties in Connecticut alone. Yeah, okay. I have 5 staff.
Under Housing Secretary Ben Carson, HUD has shed more than 480 staff out of 8,000.
All right, so again, that's just a snippet from that report. I'm going to put the link in the description to the YouTube video where you can see the rest of the report. But here you have mainly people of color, by the way, living in basically what is third world conditions, thanks to Ben Carson. And these guys are like, look, I got so many properties to manage, and I don't have the staff. I got 5 people. We can't do those inspections. The system is broken, and of course, the system is broken because of people like Ben Carson. So, I mean, look, the conditions in this report cited roaches, rats, mold, not to mention places where you don't know if the ceiling is going to collapse on you. Literal holes in the wall, holes in the ceiling. The place is literally falling apart. But here you have Carson basically giving money to the renters and not actually doing anything. I'm sorry, giving money to the people who are renting out the apartments, but not doing anything to help the occupants. Nothing symbolizes the grift of the Trump administration, of Republicans, than this. Not only that, but what money did go to making sure people live decent housing would have been cut off by Carson and Trump anyway if they had their way. Now, earlier this year, for example, Carson supported Trump's proposed $8.8 billion cut to the agency and, in addition, proposed tripling rents for residents. Now, look, you go and watch that report, and you look at the conditions that they're living in, and then you come back and you look at the idea of raising their rent by 3 times for that? You think, No, that's insanity. Why would we pay more for less? But see, here's the thing. That's kind of the point, right? Now, of course, Carson refused to be interviewed, right? Probably had to go take a nap somewhere. Gosk had said, although an anonymous spokesperson said the secretary believes very deeply that families should not be forced to live in housing that's unsafe, and taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing it. But that's sort of the point, right? Now, look, here's what they want to do, at least in my opinion. They want to make these headlines to convince the public to pull funding from HUD itself. They want people to live in these conditions and for it to get so outrageous that people go, well, there must be another solution because the government is not providing it. Look at the people getting stuck in government housing. We should end this program and leave it to private housing to solve this problem. Give all our money over to private corporations, dissolve HUD, and then let them run Section 8 housing or, HUD housing on our taxpayer money. That's what they're doing. People living in these conditions is not a failure of Carson's leadership. It's the whole mission. It is their entire point. Make HUD housing so terrible that you want to get rid of it. And of course, if that happens and they privatize it, these people will end up either being homeless or having to pay even more for the rents. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the conditions will be better. But hey, at least the taxpayer might not have to subsidize this terrible housing anymore. But they still will have to subsidize something if you privatize it. So now you might think, but wait a minute, Ben Carson runs HUD. Why would he want to destroy his own department? That doesn't make any sense. Why would he want to screw himself out of a job? Well, because that's what he's put there to do. He specifically wanted to destroy HUD. He was put there to destroy it and make landlords rich in the process. He believes that poverty, like a lot of Republicans, is a moral failing. That these people don't deserve help because they're poor. They must have failed somewhere in their life, and to be poor in America, and being poor, well, that makes you a bad person. You're a terrible person. Well, that's not true, right? But nonetheless, when you believe that, well, it makes you do things like this. So he cut staff so deeply that they're not able to do their jobs and effectively fix these problems, right? Or enforce safety standards. I mean, then again, after all, if you think poor people are garbage to begin with, then why would you want to reward them with decent housing? That's what I'm saying. No, you must punish them, in his mind, by making them live with vermin, because they are vermin. That'll teach you not to be poor. That's the mindset. Ben Carson, he doesn't need this job. He doesn't need HUD. And he doesn't care at all about the people who do need HUD. All he cares about is his misguided vision of what it takes to be a real good American. And poor people, whether you're a poor person of color or not, he just doesn't think are worthy. That's who Ben Carson is. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.